So maybe I was terribly naive, but until I was probably in high school, I didn't have that much of a conception of what all these issues that the grown-ups were talking about in Northampton. But my senior year, I was the co-chair of the Mayor's Youth Commission, and I had the awesome privilege of working with a lot of artists across the Pioneer Valley and a group of other students on painting the benches in downtown Northampton. You can still see them, every time you walk down a main street. And on our first day, when we were going to clean the benches, I was working one of the benches right in front of La Vera Cruzana, and a guy walked up to me, early 60s, and he said, what are you guys working on? I explained to the project, I explained it was a response to the benches having been taken away, and we wanted to make downtown a more welcoming place and really show that this is something that's shared for everyone, and it's an art piece within our community. And he said, well, okay, I guess you can use my bench for the day then if you're going to make it a little more beautiful. And he goes on to explain, he points up, I don't know how many of you are familiar with, but on the top of the Moshi Moshi building there's this white clock. And there's really intricate brickwork around it. And he explained how he had done that a decade earlier or something. He had been a construction worker. And he explained how then he had hurt his back when he had worked on that project. And because he had to take a little bit of time off, he ended up being fired from his job. And he was around 55 at the time. And being 55 and trying to find someone who wants to hire you to do construction work and picking up heavier things, people are going to look at you and they're going to say, that's not what you're able to do. And he wasn't able to find work in what he had spent his entire life being an expert in. And going off of what Rabbi David said and also Pastor Steph is two things here, right? There's one that there's something we need to do better on. We need to do better on investing in the things that bring people together. I go to school now at Brandeis, and I do political work across the state, and everywhere I go, everyone's like, oh, I love walking down Main Street and doing shopping there. We all know that it's special, but what makes it special is when we invest in that. Not when we take away the benches, not when we try and take away things from downtown. It's trying to put more into those services, because benches seemed really simple, but it's something that I can talk about with someone in Boston and they know about the colored benches we have in Northampton. When we invest in those things that aren't just for ourselves, everyone feels that. On the other side there, this is someone whose story I would have never really thought about as a senior in high school at Northampton High. Downtown, not quite downtown. The places students go to aren't necessarily the places where we're going to interact with other people. This was a turning point in my sort of experience of thinking about a different story that someone else has. And I think it's important for us to have these conversations, but also think about what are these other stories, what are ways that have put ourselves into difficult positions, and what could those look like for other people as well. This both made me realize why it's important for us to improve, but also recognize what other people are going through as well.